Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome back, some of you. Glad to have everyone here and looking forward to this conversation. I'm Cathy Liska with the Center for Coaching Certification and Coach 123.
And I'm Pandora Ray. I'm also with the Center for Coaching Certification and Coach 123.
And very excited about our guest today and our topic. So Kendra, please tell everybody about you.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to share this time and space with both of you. I am Kendra Nickel. I am the Director for Leadership Development at HCF Management, where I work as an internal coach here in my organization, where I have been for about 8 years now, but just coaching for the last 2 years. So thank you for having me join you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a privilege to have you here. So the topic that we put out there for today is performance coaching. First question, Kendra, what is performance coaching?
Well, when I think about performance coaching, for me, it can include a variety of different aspects. But what I have experienced most in my coaching career so far is working with clients who say to me, Kendra, I'm doing well in my job so far, but I want to take my performance to the next level. And so, in most of the work that I do with my coaching clients, that's the kind of performance coaching that I'm doing. But it can include all varieties of performance too. So, mostly I'm working with good performers, helping them move to great. But it also does include working with low performers and helping them find new success in those roles as well. So, it can include a variety of things.
Yeah. So who usually initiates the performance coaching?
I expect that this will vary depending on any number of factors. But in my experience here in my organization, usually I have individuals within the organization coming to me and initiating that on their own. Now, sometimes that happens because they get a referral from someone else who's been through coaching previously. And so they say, oh, maybe I could do that. That doesn't sound so scary. I could benefit from that too. But on occasion, it does come from supervisors who come to me and say, hey, I want you to work with this person on my team because I think they could really benefit from coaching in some aspect of their performance.
Yeah. So when an employee is sent for coaching and they show up, I'm imagining sometimes maybe they're happy with this and sometimes maybe they're not.
I would say that usually they're not.
Okay.
Oftentimes, when a supervisor is recommending someone on their team for coaching, in my experience, that individual doesn't see the same things that their supervisor sees for whatever performance deficiency it is that we're being asked to address. And so in those cases, it can be quite challenging to get that kind of ownership early in the process around what the goals should or could be in this coaching engagement. And so in those kinds of situations, I work with the client pretty closely to see what their goals are. Now that they have me as a coach potentially here, what do they want to get for themselves in their career? And we try to kind of marry that with what their supervisor has said so that there's some buy-in for the client themselves participating in the process, but we're still bringing around the goals and objectives that the supervisor identified at the initial onset of that agreement and relationship.
Yeah.
So this may be repetitive, but so in that initial conversation with a potential client, how do you approach that? What kinds of what questions are in the conversation that lead to either yes, we're going to work together or something else? How do you manage that?
In my experience, what I have done with the client is to be as transparent with them as I can be and remind them about the confidentiality that they have as a client with me as their coach. to remind them that this is a safe place to work through whatever challenges they might be experiencing, because sometimes there's other difficulty in that relationship between the client that I'm asked to coach and the supervisor who referred them, that there's something happening in that relationship that's interfering with performance in some aspect. And so during that very beginning part of the coaching interview, the opening conversation about, is this something that you want to do? I spend a lot of time, more than maybe I do in other coaching relationships, talking about the nature of that confidentiality and what it affords them and gets them in this kind of relationship as a safe place to talk about all of those things that might come up.
Yeah. So as you're moving into that conversation, what are some of the misperceptions people have?
What I have found is the biggest misperception around performance coaching is that performance coaching is only for poor performers. I think that's a very natural thought for most people to think that, well, performance coaching is only for people who are doing bad at their jobs. And so that is one of the misconceptions that I've been working with my organization around, to remind people, performance coaching is actually best for people who are already good performers, who just want what's next, to be more productive in their work days, to meet their goals, to set bigger goals and reach those. That is the biggest misconception that I work with around the organization, and reminding folks, performance coaching is for everyone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One way I've put it, and I love saying this, it's kind of like saying you got the corner office with the window because you get a coach.
That's a great way of talking about it. Yes, yes. And so shifting that mindset here within my organization, that coaching isn't for poor performers, has been my mantra. Coaching is for our good performers who we want to move to great. That is where we get the biggest traction as an organization, when we have more good performers who move to great.
So talk about your experience as an internal coach.
So it's a tricky spot to be. There's a lot of reward around being an internal coach, because one of the most fun things for me is getting to see the success of my coaching clients at the end of that coaching relationship. I get to see them. It's like raising children, right? Who turn into these wonderful adults who you absolutely love. I feel very similarly about coaching relationships that I've had with clients. When I see the success that they have on the other side of that coaching relationship, when they continue to just do little touch bases with me, that's really fantastic. But that's the most fun thing about it for me as an internal coach. I get to continue to see that growth and the results of that development through the coaching relationship as they continue through their careers here with us at this organization. Those are some of my favorite things about it.
Yeah. So talk about building this coaching program offering in your organization.
Well, it was new here. I'm the first internal coach that my organization has had. And so that's why we've had to navigate some of these things about coaching for performance isn't just for poor performers. So being that this is the first time we've done that as an organization, we've been moving through what that looks like here. And I got a little sidetracked there. So refresh my memory with what your question was originally.
Doing this coaching program in your organization and just, bringing it in, it's new and now it's growing.
Yes, now it is growing. So I've been doing this long enough that I have people who would have graduated from coaching, right? They've used their coaching sessions. We've run through that. Periodically, I'll still do touch bases with them about how things are going and those sorts of things. But they have become my biggest advocates within the organization. So now I have coaching clients who've been through coaching who aren't shy about saying to their peers and their colleagues around the organization, I went through coaching with Kendra, and at first I thought this was going to be a bunch of baloney. I thought there's nothing really good about coaching. It's just the latest fad in development, but it was actually really amazing. And I don't know if you know that she can do this, but they make it sound like I do all of the work. And I have to straighten out every new coaching client that I get. No, actually, you are the one who does most of the work in a coaching relationship. But they become my biggest advocates around the organization, saying to others, reach out to Kendra, ask her about coaching. I think you would really benefit. She could help you work through this thing. And so I just recently had one of our administrators come to me and say that he was interested in coaching because his boss had been through coaching and had said to him, you're looking to move your building into the next tier of performance. You might want to reach out to Kendra and talk with her about coaching because she'll work with you to help you get to that next level goal for you. And that's just one example of how that's happened around the organization, where I have people who've come through that coaching program say to others, this isn't a scary thing. It's not a bad thing. It's actually quite amazing. And you will experience wonderful things as a result.
That's really wonderful. The words you're using is like, what's next? What's going to be different in my career? And I'm thinking there are those among us who would think that organizations often focus on the people that need to improve performance rather than the people that are really doing well.
Yes.
So tell us a story or two, just what happened in a situation where you had a client that you were coaching toward that next level.
Well, I had a new leader here in our organization who was very early in his career. I work in an industry that can be quite challenging, and we frequently have young leaders who are just starting their careers. And so this young leader, we had already identified as somebody in the organization who was already making good choices that we really liked organizationally. They were in line with our values. He seemed like he might be someone we would like to see grow in the organization. But my organization is also very traditional. We like to take a long time to make decisions here because that has served us well in our past. Being slow to move and think about things from all different angles. And so when I began the coaching relationship with him, one of the most exciting things is doing that story with clients at the very beginning of their coaching relationship with me, and relaying to them their story through all of the goals and visions of their future that they have shared in that initial coaching session. And he had a vision for what his career could look like with the organization, and it included growth before very long. So he had these goals that in a couple of years, he would be leading the next region, that he would be supervising his peers within just a couple of years. And in my head, I'm thinking, oh, shoot, that's not how this organization works. But that's not what we talked about in our coaching. Like, how do we get there? How do you position yourself? What opportunities do you have? How do you start displaying those kinds of traits now in your role so that when that next opportunity presents itself, you are somebody that the organization looks at? What do you want to do now to get there? And it turned out that we had an opening like within 6 months, and he was ready. He was ready because we had already worked together on that through his coaching around how does he position himself so that he would be ready when that next opportunity came. And because of how our organization is moving through these kinds of leadership development things with coaching, with training up our leaders and thinking about things differently, he actually got the job and was promoted internally into this role, which was just incredibly different than how my organization has behaved in the past. But they recognized, and he was able to speak to all of those ways that as a leader, he was positioned well for being that next regional leader in our organization. And so for me, that looks a lot like a tremendous success story of somebody who was already a good performer and then through coaching was able to start planning for what was next, which actually ended up being far sooner than either he or I had anticipated might have happened. And so now he is one of those people in the organization saying, coaching is an amazing experience.
Saying you did it, not him.
God bless his heart. I know it. But he did all of that hard work for thinking critically through, what can I do now? What's important to position myself
Lovely.
for that opportunity in the future?
That's awesome. That is just awesome. So I'm curious about a couple of things. One is really what the indicators for success of an individual coaching engagement are. And then I'd really love to also start exploring for other people in your position. It's a small organization. They're just getting going with coaching, some of your insights there. So building on the story you just shared with us, what are the indicators of, hey, this is going to be a successful coaching engagement?
Yeah. The strongest indicator that I have found yet in talking with prospective clients is measuring some sort of indicator of readiness. So I try to listen very well around that question of, how do you think coaching will benefit you? And listening to the responses that they share, then listening to their responses when I talk about what coaching is and what it isn't, because a lot of people here within the organization know me from my member of the HR department days. And how I would interact with leaders around the organization as a director of human resources is very different than how I interact with them in a coaching relationship. And so I listen very well to their responses around, I'm not just going to tell you what to do. If you're looking for somebody to tell you what to do, know that that's not the nature of this relationship. And so I think that has been very helpful. But ultimately, for my experience thus far, it's come down to readiness and, I mean, not to use the word in the definition, but coachability. And that's really what those two things are. That's what I have found. And then you asked something else about starting out in a small organization.
So I believe we have other organizations out there that are thinking about starting a coaching program. There's other coaches out there who are going to be like you. Okay, we're bringing this coaching into the organization. What are lessons learned, if you will? That will be helpful.
I think that it has been so successful here because I have had unwavering support from my supervisor and our president of the company. Both of them have been on board every step of the way about the value of coaching. And part of that is because they have both had coaches in their professional experience. And my supervisor, I think he won a drawing for some free coaching sessions at something that we had gone to. And he too had the perspective that many do at the onset of coaching of, oh, this is just going to be nothing. I'm not going to get anything out of this. And I think he only got 3 coaching sessions, right? So that's just the tip of the iceberg kinds of stuff. And at the end of those 3 coaching sessions, he was like, oh, oh no, I see what's happening here and what this could do for our organization. And so their support and their vision for the strength of the organization on the other side of offering internal coaching has been vital, really vital for success.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so leadership support, what else is important in getting this program up and running?
Well, you didn't ask for a plug, but I'm going to give you a plug. The Center for Coaching Certification was just so helpful in laying a foundation for me as a new coach with the tools and resources that we had available. I found that invaluable as I was being the waymaker here, right? I mean, having that kind of support and expertise as I was going through the coaching program and earning my credential was just invaluable in figuring out how to navigate that. Just as a first timer, it was really helpful to have all of those resources just at my fingertips to be able to lean on as I was navigating that at the very beginning. So thank you.
Yeah.
Coaching certification.
So the training, the resources, the leadership support, what else?
What else? There's that coaching question. Let's see here. Those two things I think have been the most critical. But having some early success with coaching clients has certainly been what continues to keep it successful here within our organization. Having those first few come through and promote coaching unabashedly. Like, not because I told them, please go tell your friends, but just because the experience was that valuable for them that they're just offering it to their colleagues as an option for when you just want what's next and aren't quite sure how to get there.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Like you have been phenomenal in doing this. And I want to ask you all kinds of questions about what were you most afraid of and all that kind of stuff. But I want to shift a little bit to go, you are a high performer, it sounds like, and have created something within your organization that's new. You're an entrepreneur. What's next for you? What's your future? What's your vision? What's going to be different and new for you going forward?
Yeah, that's the big question these days. I love what I am doing. I'm sure it's coming through in just how I talk about this. I absolutely love what I am doing. And so I am not eager for a whole lot of different yet. I have the incredible pleasure of seeing the fruits of my labor here with my internal coaching clients. It's just wonderful to get to see the success that they have as they continue in their careers, in their leadership paths. That is just the greatest joy for me to be able to see how they continue to be high performers and contribute to the organization. It is such a joy. But next for me, I'm looking to write a book. I think that I want to do something in the leadership development space, whether that's around coaching or topics related to emotional intelligence. Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking at. I'm sure I will not be happy with just one book. There will be many, but just impacting the lives of others around me to make it better, make the world a better place, make work a better place by creating better leaders. That's my personal mission. And so however I can do that, that's what I'm excited about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I'm tempted to just to kind of throw the zinger. I want to hear about someone that came in that was like really a challenge and it turned around and became a success.
That was actually one early on in my internal coaching here. And I was terrified I was terrified of this ask because our VP of operations came to me and he said, hey, I have a leader on my team who's really struggling with her relevance, feeling like I don't know if I'm contributing anymore in this organization. I don't know. I just don't know. And she was really struggling with that. And so he said, I would really like you to talk to her and see if you can save her. Save her. I mean, that was my ask because she was such an important member of our team here. Her expertise was invaluable. The things that she that we could see her continuing to do in the organization were vital and necessary. And that was my ask because she was teetering on the point of turning in her resignation and leaving the organization, right? Like, and they looked at me, brand new out of the program. I didn't even have my accreditation yet. And he was like, save my person. And I was horrified. Just between you and me and anybody who's watching this. And so fortunately, you know, I met with her to do the kind of initial introductory kind of, hey, this is the ask. What's your level of interest? What are you looking for here? What do you want out of coaching? All of those kinds of things. And so, unlike most of my coaching clients, like that's a really acute situation, very, very time sensitive. And so for most coaching clients, we meet every couple of weeks, right? Like there's no emergency here. For her, we met every week. We met every week to talk about where she is and what she wants. And it was one of my most impactful sharings of stories. So that initial introductory, that initial coaching session, we went through all of the questions. We talked about what she wants and all of these different parts of her life with her family and with her career and all of those sorts of things. And in that second session, when I shared that story with her, she broke down and listening to her story and the dreams that she had for herself and for her career at this organization. It still gets me emotional. Because she wanted to have this kind of significant impact on the organization, but just wasn't sure that it was her. And so we continued to meet every week for about 2 months. And she made such a radical transformation in those 8 months with identifying her why. It got lost. It got lost in the busyness of the pandemic, in all of the challenges that our organization was facing. And in coaching, she rediscovered her why and how to be a leader to her team who also struggled with similar issues. And coming out of that coaching arrangement, she had that light and that spark again. And she's still with the organization today. She too has joined me now as another member on the executive team because her contributions are that powerful. She just couldn't see it. And coaching helped her see that positive impact that she was making and could yet have in the organization. And so that was just tremendous. So my horrification at the ask at the beginning of that relationship, it turned out well. Now that's not every story, but that's the one that I am most proud of, where she was ready and was able to see that through coaching.
That's amazing. That's so
Wonderful.
awesome. And it doesn't even start out as this story about performance coaching.
Yeah.
And
It
guess
doesn't.
what? Guess what? With that outcome, that's performance coaching.
It is. And that's what you hope to have out of those kinds of performance coaching, because that is what it is at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, that is so awesome. Okay, so we're about out of time here. Kendra, what closing message, thought, or reflection do you want to share with people listening?
Oh, I don't know that the biggest thing that I would love to leave with people is performance coaching isn't only just for poor performers. Performance coaching is for all kinds of performers, but especially just your good performers, the ones who are just doing fine. They will have the most tremendous growth in performance coaching, taking them from good to just fantastic. That's the sweet spot for me. So it's not just for poor performers. You get a lot more out of it from your goods.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today. So
Yeah.
appreciate that and the insights. Really good stuff. Really good stuff. So yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, delighted, delighted. And everyone do come visit us. We've got Coach 123, the coaching firm. So www.coach-123.com and Center for Coaching Certification at www.coachcert.com. Make it a great one.